Yes.
I taught special education for 10 years. We're very fond of making our students feel better by naming all the famous people in the world who have learning disabilities over time. Your name always came up on that list. Was that true, or was it had difficulty reading, or was it simply just the lack of interest as you discussed?
I think I was not a slow child as my parents suspected, but I think I was an obsessive child. I would focus on one thing and only want to know about that one thing. For some time I mentioned religion. For that entire year when I was 5 or 6, I would do nothing but think about the Old Testament and Psalms of David and so forth. And so I had a very obsessive, I think, personality, and in physics that is a good thing. Because you obsess about the gravity or light or electromagnetic fields, and sooner or later the answers come. But also it's a disability, I think, because in the meantime your children are growing up, your wife is leaving you. You're obsessed with what's in your head, and so there are negative consequences to such obsessions, even though in the end you might have an accomplishment. Yes.
Einstein, you spoke of a certain amount of regret you felt about the application of your discovery of the consensus for opportunity. What advice would you have for today's scientists who find themselves circumscribed by the interests, either corporate interests or military interests, when either corporate or body, those are really the only sources for funding for continuing their work?
Are you asking what if scientists can control the uses of their invention?
Yeah, you expressed some regret over the application of your discovery. So, what advice would you have for scientists who are facing some of that same problem? They have to go to the military or various corporations in order to get funding in order to be able to even do the work.
I think scientists should not abandon their accomplishments, their technologies, after they have invented them, and say, well, it's not my problem how it's used, it is their problem. And right now I am the president of the Atomic Scientists Union, in which we are trying to reduce the dependence upon atomic weaponry and the research into even more horrible weapons. And so I think scientists have a responsibility to follow their work through to the end product and not just say, well, I invented something and now they're using it for war. Well, they need to stay in the game afterwards. Yes.
There are a lot of stories about you. The one that I'm particularly interested in is that you were absent-minded to the point where on occasion you would forget to put your pants on. Is there any truth to these stories? That you walk across the campus of Princeton having forgotten to put your trousers on?
Generally, my secretary, Helen Lucas, would stop me from leaving the house without the trousers. But I do not wear socks, for example. That isn't absent-mindedness, but what would happen is I noticed my big toe would always punch a hole through the socks. I solved that by never wearing the socks again. But I don't know if it's absent-mindedness or just because I don't care about appearances. When Elsa, my wife, second wife, was alive, she would always tell me, she would always dress me basically and worry about such things. But after she died, I didn't care much about them anymore. I remember one time when the New York Times reporter was coming to the house, and I was dressed similar to this. And Elsa said, "Oh my God, the New York Times reporter is coming, Albert. Go and get dressed for him." And I said, if the reporter wants to see me, here I am. If he wants to see my suits, take him upstairs. And so I try to make life as simple as possible. So I do not like to worry about whether I am wearing a tie or socks, or if I'm in a bathrobe and I want to go to get the newspaper in the morning, I walk up the path on Mercer Street and gets a paper. But Helen Lucas said, no, Albert, what would they say? I don't care what they say.
Dr. Einstein, you mentioned earlier that you were a bit obsessive, and that was a good thing when working in physics. And I also noticed that you did collaborate with Dr. Weissman at one point. I wondered, was collaboration difficult for you? Did you collaborate with others very easily? Or as sometimes with obsessive people, they tend to, you know, focus on something and not able to include anyone into that focus. So what was it easy for you to collaborate with others, or was that a difficult thing for you?
I think it's difficult for all people who are at a certain level in their profession to collaborate with someone else, but yet the free exchange of ideas is essential for the advancement of science. And so I try to collaborate when I can. There are always arguments, there are always disagreements, as with Niels Bohr and the quantum mechanic comic opera that he proposes. But I must get to speak to him about this, because there's no advancement without a collaborative